So, and I managed to fall backward into a planter box. I went to that Grand Rapids Zoo
Oh, yeah.
lantern thing,
yeah.
Taking a picture of Renee, I'm backing up.
Oh, heavy.
And I toppled over, wearing a pair of khakis into a muddy old planter box, cracked my head on the back of a brick retaining wall. Renee's laughing.
Oh, yeah.
People are running to help me up. Like, you okay, old man? I'm like, I'm an old man.
Yeah.
All right.
You know?
Pride a little hurt, maybe.
Yeah, pride was there. It looked like
Get
I
started here.
you know.
You all set, Brian? All set?
All set.
All right, Caitlin, can you do roll call for us, please?
Schichtel,
Here?
Warner,
Here.
Tenza,
Here.
Theobald,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Solomon,
Here.
Hamner,
Here.
Kearney, Pesha,
Here.
Stark.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Next, section 2, approval of agenda. We have one thing we need to add, the acceptance of board resignation.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support.
Schichtel,
Yes?
Warner,
Yes.
Tenza,
Yes.
Theobald,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Kearney, Pesha,
Yes.
Stark.
All right.
Might I suggest, Mr. Chair, we just do that after our first public comments? Unless
I
there's
was
another-
just going to say that. Perfect.
Super.
Will do. All right. Section 3 is approval of the minutes of March 12th, 2025. Motion and support on that?
Motion to approve the minutes of March 12th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Warner,
Yes.
Tenza,
Yes.
Theobald,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Pesha,
Yes.
Kearney, Stark, Schichtel.
Yes. Okay, section 4 is public comments. It's a session with no open dialogue, and you may address the board with your comments, and each person has 3 minutes.
Morning.
Good morning, authority members. My name is Art Stevens, and I wanted to first of all just give a thank you to all of you and for the committee for doing the resolution of support for the grant funding. And also, as I was thinking of going and thanking individual members, I started to realize every one of you participated in not only the resolution, but by getting letters of support, whether it was the school, the drain commissioner, and Julie, your efforts with talking to the county, and Mr. Warner for your involvement in this. I know Mr. Tenza went and helped meet as well to look at getting grant funding, and Mr. Pecha with the city and the chair going down with Lansing as well to meet. I know Mr. Hammer with the industry. So thank you all for your involvements and really the leadership from your board on this. That was phenomenal. I am going to take it quick. I did want to just mention, I know at the last meeting, it was later, there was discussion on how can you get those within the LDFA district compliant and off those private wells. And one of the things that did not come up with that is there's already an ordinance in the city already from 2018 that if that is followed would give 60 days to make them compliant on that. And I know that didn't come up as one of the options, but it is there. It's an ordinance that I did find out through the Freedom of Information Act information on it, but it sets all the standards to require that. And I know it's 7-something years later, but it's still on there. That would give a route for them within 60 days to be enforcement and have everybody compliant. So, Chair, I'll just approach. I do have copies of that ordinance for everybody if you wanted to pass them out, and then that's all I had today. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can start at the end, and we can just pass them out. Go ahead and give it to Mark.
Thanks, Art.
Thanks.
You'll need to give minutes copies, including minutes.
close public comments. Next up, we're gonna do the add-in, acceptance of the board for the resignation of Emily Kearney off the LDFA board.
So moved.
Support.
Tenza,
Yes.
Diebold,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Pesha,
Yes.
Kearney, Stark, Schichtel.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is section 5, review of old action items. First up is update of well flow project. Shallow well number 1, shallow well number 2 are added to the intermediate well 5 well carbon filter. Jeff, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, and if I start to cough board, I'm recovering from something. So, yeah, we're still working with the EPA on that. I had talked to Matt, or we had talked in our agenda meeting, rather than bringing this all back up month after month, he just wanted maybe a deadline that we would have this completed by, and then we could report at that deadline date that it's done. So I'm saying June 1st, we should have this done by, and stuff through EPA. If it's not done on by June 1st, we'll bring it back up in the June meeting and do a new schedule of when it'll be done. But right now, just working through with the EPA, and we think it'll be June 1st, it'll be done. So
Okay.
that's the update there.
I'll table that action item till June meeting.
Yep.
We can go from there. Next is the update on current actions to be compliant with the city's 2018 ordinance and the EPA's 2010 mandate. Just looking for a time for this to be completed.
Again, June 1st, I was talking to Catherine at the EPA, and the 5-year review is her comments is due to the EPA on June 1st. It's not due till August. So she would like to have this wrapped up by then, because it'd make her end of the report a lot easier, even if she said it's in progress. Let's say we're waiting for the well to be plugged or something, because we already have them hooked up to the water. So I would say June 1st on that one. Also, I talked to the new owners of the 6th Street. I don't know if I told you last meeting, but there was new owners. They're planning on tearing down that house and doing something industrial. He said maybe storage sheds or something. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't driven by there yet to see. I know he was waiting for the county to have the register of deeds to get that all processed. So they're up and running now, so I'm assuming they're up and running. So that one should be taken care of. I've already told him that we would take care of the wells and the abandoning of the wells. And then I actually made arrangements to go and talk to Ed, or talk to the other resident in the area about doing it.
Just to add something in, it's a great update, but I think if you wouldn't mind, send a letter, to the two.
Yep.
Just like with the one that is advising that they're gonna perhaps change the use, knock it down, and so on and so forth. They would still, if there's gonna be any kind of water connection, they'd still have to connect to the city.
Oh, they know.
Okay, but I would say.
I will send a letter.
Yeah, just send a letter, just saying, hey, good to hear about your plans, just so you remember, here's,
Yep.
that way the file's been papered.
I've already told him that we would disconnect the well, plug the well, and provide the water connection, just like we did for Mr. Anderson,
Yeah,
like
sure.
we'll do for Mr. Ed, and that unless he gets some big industry coming in there, then obviously we
How
would
many
do.
acres?
I think there's 4 or 5 acres there. It's quite a big parcel. So, yeah. So.
Okay. All right, thanks for that update. I appreciate.
Can I?
Oh, sorry.
Jeff, are the abandoned wells, do you pull the pipe or do you cement them in, or what's the process?
I think we're gonna cement them in. So.
Thank you.
6th Street.
Also known as plugging.
Plug, yeah. Maybe bentonite, maybe not cement.
I would say bentonite would be the better,
Yeah, so.
and not to be confused with pugging.
Okay, next up is section 4, groundwater treatment plant. operations update. Jeff?
Okay, yeah, this is a new section where I added. I think it's going to be great for the board. Just updating what we've done at the groundwater treatment plant, which is our charge. This month or last month on March 6th, we took our monthly monitoring samples, and we actually sampled the carbon in our spent carbon canister and had that sent out to see what it contained. We had 68.5 man hours of work out at that facility. It's not manned all the time, so people coming in and out about 68.5 hours. And we had 60.86 million gallons go through our treatment process. Of that 60.86, having know what comes in and out, we actually took out a whopping 6.95 pounds of VOCs. So it is, quite a small amount because the water coming in is so clean. We had no hexavalent chrome detections. So obviously we cannot say how much hexavalent chrome we took out. We would say there was none came into the plant, so none was taken out through the carbon filter. We would say that there was none because we had no detections. So that was on that. We did get the sample sent out to Desotech, which is our old carbon supplier. They have come back with a quote for what replacing the carbon would be, but we're still working on the figure because we could do some disposal of some carbon. We might go to our household hazardous waste supplier if we can get it cheaper to treat it that way. But anyways, their initial offer was $21,000 to have it changed out. It started, as Owen can say, the first one we got, it started at like $55,000 because the old carbon had iodine in it, added to it for the chromium extraction, hexavalent chrome extraction. Since we don't need that level of carbon anymore, they can give us a different brand, a different amount of carbon in there, and so it can be used a cheaper amount, especially since we're not going to be we're petitioning not to have the hexavalent chrome on our permit anymore. So we're still working on it. When I do have a firm number, I will come back to the board and ask the board to approve that number so we can change out that carbon. We're in no rush right now. We have the second carbon canister on. It's working great. Everything's fine, but it's just something I want to keep the board updated in, and that we're also looking at multiple suppliers, so we just don't go with the one. So anyways, that would be the update. If there's any questions, I can answer those.
So there's been a prior set of carbon material that's been shipped off-site?
Yeah, the program is they ship it off and they put it back in their regen pile, but you don't pay for it till you take it, which I don't see the plus of it at that point because you're always paying current rate. I thought that we paid the rate when we took it back and that carbon was ours. No, it's just their program that was started up before me was they take it, they regen it, and then you buy it at the rate of that regen price at the time that it gets shipped back to your facility.
So they'll take it and properly dispose of it or recycle it, but if you want more for them, there's a price tag.
Yep, you're paying today's rate.
And what's the name of the company?
Desotech, Desotec. And that's the current name. I had to go through the files and find the old name, and then I actually had to go with the physical addresses and see who was the new owner of the physical address to find out who, and they had moved once, and it's a whole bunch of detective work, but this is who our current guys are, is Desotech.
Out of where?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, that's right, you told me that.
Yep.
And so how long ago did we change out our carbon filter? What's happened to the last set that we shipped out to Desotech?
2004, as our agenda meeting, you had asked if there was a certificate of recycling or a
Yes.
certificate of
That's where-
disposal.
That's where I'm going.
And they did not have one at all. Alls we have, they said, look at your bill of lading and stuff like that is what they gave me. I had asked if the new carbon comes
Yeah.
to them. They said, yes, they can do a recycling or disposal, a certificate, whichever one they can do for the current, but they do not have one from 2004.
But with this company in the business of doing this, you feel that you have some confidence that, it's all about making sure it goes to a proper home.
Yep, I do, and we're actually looking at if they have to dispose of it, maybe us disposing of it, if we can find a cheaper alternative that is, allowed.
So in this case, with the canister that we have present day, I mean, perhaps we could do our own recycling destruction and then perhaps buy our own batch of new carbon from another vendor.
We could.
You're looking at all those options.
Yes.
Okay.
I think, yes, eventually we'll get to that point that we'll be competitive bidding every time we get out carbon.
Yeah, sounds like there's a decent price tag.
Yeah, it is shocking what the difference in carbon, the grades of carbon can do. And just talking here, I just, something tickled my brain here is I got to go back and talk to Catherine because they might require us to go with the higher grade of carbon until we get the hexavalent chrome removed from our from the Superfund site. Even though they told us we don't have to test for it anymore, or we don't have to treat for it anymore, and they're looking at closing down the hexavalent chrome cleanup, they might require us to keep the higher grade carbon until that's officially off the books. So I got to go back to Catherine and ask her.
That's a good point, Jeff. The other point that I would make is so to employ this carbon as a PFAS scrubber, right? So I know the devil's in the details, and not all carbon is created equally. So there's, like I'm learning with the subject of biochar, there's about 1,500 different versions of biochar. Some is good at holding PFAS, some not. Some's designed for chromium. So perhaps we should ask if in the next batch of carbon, maybe if we could get a 2-for-1 special, a chrome PFAS scrubber.
Well,
at least ask the question: would this carbon be effective at PFAS as well? I mean,
funny you should ask that because that was the first question I asked them.
Okay.
And
great.
that for the
Mine
for the chromium one, you need the iodide, and it will do the PFAS. The one they're quoting us now would just do the PFAS, and a little bit of chromium. That's why I got to circle back to Catherine and say, since we're looking at maybe getting rid of the chromium part of the cleanup, can we go with the lower carbon? And have her engineers at EPA tell us yay or nay.
Good. I think you're asking the right questions, which is great. Just from my perspective, you want something that works, cost effective, but also I think the one I would add, Jeff, is we want to make sure that we've got good disposal records, that we want to complete the chain, kind of the chain of custody with a certificate of disposal or recycling.
I think nowadays, for sure nowadays, like I said, I asked already about the 2004 disposal, and they just did not have those records. So,
thank you. I apologize if I'm stretching your vocal cords. If you're down,
I got cough drops.
You got okay. Thanks.
Hey Jeff, is that material hazmat when it's shipped out of here?
I do believe it. When it was in 2004, it was hazmat.
Should be a hazmat record.
I think that's what they were saying, bill of lading and a hazmat record. I remember it in the file. I'll take a look at it.
Well, the question. That's thanks, Mike. I should have asked. I mean, do we cross over into a RCRA waste or a circle waste with the PFAS?
I did ask that, and I did not get a clear answer on that yet. So.
Okay. And then from a budgeting standpoint, the estimate's 21,000. It's about 21 years of use, so we're talking as is like $1,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All All right,
So
thanks for
we,
that.
we stretched that one out, so.
Thank you, Jeff. Section 7 is an update on the subcommittee meeting with Geosyntec Environmental Consulting. We had an introduction meeting for, with the Environmental Optimization Services. Jeff, Brian, Mike, and myself were present, and it was just a quick update of what documentation they needed to get started. And they're also looking forward to a presentation and a site visit in a future meeting. So I don't know if anyone that was there wants to talk any more about what happened in that meeting.
Pretty straightforward.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
With you mentioning site visit, it might be to some advantage for the board at some point to actually take a site visit. Maybe it's with Geosyntec or not, but of the LDFA area, including the operations center. There are a number of ways that could be structured, where it isn't an actual official meeting, but rather a presentation by, staff of just facilities, and we meet out there and take a tour. Or if you do want to structure it as an actual, meeting, then we'd have to be very strategic about how we do the noticing, both at the facility here, facility there, and actually have some kind of a meeting at the facility where you are there at a certain time. So my suggestion would be it's more of a tour, more of not a meeting, but just, coming and hearing. Just something to think about, especially with bringing on the consultant, might be a good learning opportunity for all of us.
Right, and from a logistics standpoint, we were hoping just to combine that site visit while they were here for the presentation, and if anyone on the board wants to join, I know I would be interested, and I think,
Right.
If we could fit it in.
And
Make that
and
work.
honestly, even open it up to the public. We can advertise, similar to what we did with the rate, utility rate meeting that we had over at our water facility. Was it, Owen, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I think? It was not a meeting of the city council. It was a public presentation by, our consultant and staff about utility rates. This could be a very similar sort of structure, so.
Sounds good. Good
Yeah,
suggestion.
just let us know how to help facilitate that, so.
Okay.
Just for record keeping, you might want to since there's 2 mics on the board, we might want to just include a last name on the mics.
Sorry.
Just for future.
Sorry, that's an oversight from our agenda meeting. And now we have a mic that's involved from Geosyntec, so that gets a little
Yeah.
confusing, so.
And we have a mic with
So-
Mr. Swift.
Note to self, I'll take the heat on that one.
That's fine. Didn't
All
notice
right,
it.
good deal. So yeah, there's quite a lengthy list that Geosyntec's looking from the staff, so thank you, Jeff, for your efforts starting and continuing with that, so.
Yep.
Section 8.
Well, if I may, I have not, I have started gathering that data to send to them. I have not. Would the subcommittee want that data sent to them also, or just to Geosyntec?
I personally would just love to be updated. I have some of the old Tetra Tech documentation, but it's always just good information to learn. I would like to be copied, just
Right, the
so
whole
I can
board
read it.
should get it, I think.
Well, I could do the whole board too
Yeah.
when I send it out.
Yeah.
I think it's just good information.
All right.
So that we can try to help you, Jeff, with some of this stuff.
I will do the whole board, and then obviously the subcommittee will be in there, and they'll get it too. That way you guys don't have to report back that you received this from me to the board. They just all get it, and
Perfect.
that makes sense. All right. Sorry about that.
Section 8, update on the Cadillac monitoring plans, the quality management plan, institutional control, implementation and insurance plan, and timing for compliance. We also had a subcommittee update with F&V. In that subcommittee, it was Jeff, Brian, Mike Solomon, and myself. Jeff, do you have
Yep.
an update on that?
For the QMP, it has been returned to the LDFA with, which is our consultant, with EPA comments, and resubmission is requested, which we're going to do. The PFAS QAP, second revision submit to EPA now. That's what we had talked to Fleece and Vanderbrink about, is that PFAS QAP. other co-op, the VOC co-op, was approved by EPA. Sampling plan has been submitted to EPA, and EPA is reviewing. They also want us to do a well survey of the monitoring wells out there before they'll approve that one. So my wastewater operators, the people that do the LDFA, they're going out and finding the wells. So when we say we can sample well M5, there is a well M5 that we can sample. A lot of these people drive over, snowplow over, they just disappear over time. So we're doing that, and that's the well survey that they want done here. So that's really about it. The other one, they do want the confirmation that the 3 homes are off on city water and off wells in that area. So again, for the 5-year plan. So as we had talked about that earlier, I'll send them out letters, and we'll make sure that they're all on either disconnected from their well for the one place that's the maybe the new business or whatever that guy's doing there, or for the other person they're hooked up to city water. So, and that's the update on that. So.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff about that? Or does anybody from the meeting have any more comments? Okay. And just real quick, Jeff, the inventory of the wells sounds like it's kind of what's stopping us from getting the quarterly testings done. When do you plan on, what time period are you planning on getting that completed?
I've given that to my supervisor and told him, as soon as he can. So again, that's with manpower. What they have other daily jobs they're doing. That's their primary job. So they'll get out there and they'll get it done. And once we get it done, I know there's one I do believe that has been paved over, which is a very critical one. So that one we're going to have to rehab. We're going to have to. I'm pretty sure I know right where it is in a factory's parking or loading zone. So we're going to have to cut that out and rehab that one because it's an important one that has been paved over. So,
all right. Fair enough. Thank you for
yep.
that. Next up is the treasurer's report for Mr. Tenza, or if anything, Owen would like to share.
Pretty straightforward, Mr. Chair, and thank you for asking on the budgeting for the carbon, because that is important. As we evolve and we're seeing more contract services, and I know some of the acronyms and everything can be a touch confusing, but as far as the operating fund, utilities have been consistent to budget. Actually, most things have aligned to the fiscal 25 budget. I think the important thing to mention is really under the capital projects fund. That's annual tax capture, which was budgeted at 162. It's just shy of that. And the new tax capture starts July 1. I don't know if Owen wants to explain the dynamics of how the transfers happen, but I think we've reported that out pretty consistently. And I would say the other thing of importance, I've done well with interest income and investments up to date. And I don't think anything. I appreciate Owen. I subject him to a lot of rudimentary questions, and he's very, very accountable back to me so I can understand this. But it's pretty straightforward, and certainly would entertain any questions. Now we're in our 4th quarter. July 1, we start over with the new budget. Owen, could you maybe give a 30-second capture on the TIF capture and transfer so everybody's clear on that? Oh, he's so accountable, he gets up and comes up.
Yeah, that's fine. So the capture process is pretty simple. There's a very defined district of parcels that are in the TIF district. And so each levy goes out in the new fiscal year starting July 1st. So we look at that roll, we apply the base value to it, and so look at what is incrementally grown since those base values were established. And then we calculate the taxes on that. And so we collect those taxes then beginning July 1 for the summer taxes and December 1 for the winter taxes. As those are paid, we watch the capture, we pull those back when we make the disbursements to the various other governmental units, levying agencies. And then once a year, then typically in March, like we do, we settle with the county. And then basically the tax collection season for us is over as of about March 1st. So we look at the total capture then and take those from our tax collection fund and disperse them to the various agencies in March. So we have a pretty good idea of the value of the district as of about right now for the next fiscal year. Those values are established on December 31st. Taxes levied July 1, collect them through the year, make sure they've all been paid and aren't delinquent, and anything then that we've captured, we transfer to the authorities in March, as we did for here. Kind of a one-time transfer of all captured taxes.
And lastly, just so everybody understands, there's what's considered as termed a contribution on the audit. So the LDFA funds are audited independently, part of the overarching city budget. So there's no precision to that number, but you know, with some equity, you see a 600 and a 500, so applied accordingly and budget accordingly.
Yep, that's true. The total audit cost is about 40, so it's a pretty small percentage of the overall audit.
So in round numbers, on the contribution to the LDFA from the TIF is around?
Well, it was 162.
62.
Yep, for the current fiscal year. That's what we had budgeted. It came in at 161,988.59. So missed it by $11.41. So, and it's whatever I don't have the budget in front of me, but it's kind of the same principle for that. So.
And if you're looking, if looking forward, you know, for the year ahead, I mean, do you see any within the LDFA TIF area? Do you see any capital improvements? Any improvements that could or lack or developments that could change that number?
Yeah, I don't see any any losses in the taxable value necessarily. There are some vacant parcels out there, so you know, you guys might have a better idea of if anything, it's kind of in that Potvin circle there. If anything is on the horizon or in the pipeline for new development, I don't know specifically about that. But if there are, it would be 100% capturable. So
the remaining, our annual operating budget is about 280. So the difference.
Yeah, it was a little higher than that for next fiscal year. I believe it's closer to 300. And I can pull that up. It'd just take a second.
I have a question.
Yeah, so next year's budget is just shy of 300, 296.8.
So the difference is made up from the capital fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, all of it is from the capital fund. So part of it is from the current capture, part of it is from the reserves on hand, because there's no income flowing into the operating fund at this point.
Got it.
So.
Marcus, you have a question for Owen?
Yeah, more question / clarification, and Owen, I think you were just touching upon it, talking about income flowing in. That income, that would be through the special assessment, which is not in play right now. Right?
We're talking about tax captures.
Right, we're talking about tax captures. So if the special assessment, which we've talked about, knowing ultimately has to come back on, do you have any idea what the last one was 6, 7, 8 years ago?
It's 2012.
225 or so.
225.
Yep, 220.
So that would be in addition then to the 300, right? If you're talking about
the costs are 300. We have to have 300 in income. So if you have 220 from an assessment, you need 80 more from the capture.
So it's not,
part of it could be offset by
offset
interest.
then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Is that good?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
And Owen and Bill, I appreciate these monthly updates. I mean, the last 4 or 5 months, it's really nice to look at this data prior to the meeting and to be on board with all the information that's being discussed. So thank you so much for that.
Well, I think it'd be very helpful as we look at the new budget and then do those comparisons each month or at least quarterly to budget, because the contracted services and components with filter expenses and, you know, we got some unknowns out there, so.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, Section 10, update on submitted City of Cadillac PFAS management grant and meetings with state legislators, such as Senator Michelle Hoyinga and Representative Ken Borton. This was kind of a get-together, a subcommittee meeting, travel with Marcus, Brian, and myself. And Marcus, did you want to give a brief update on that?
Well, it was a good field trip to Lansing. I was there for some other business, and we connected, had, I thought, a really good dialogue, pressing the flesh with our senator and Hoyinga and Representative Borton. I thought the communication of the PFAS management plan, which everybody has seen and we have online, was very well received. It resulted in some positive press coming out of Borton's office, and we have not yet heard, but I do know that Brian has been following up with some of the folks. I don't know if you have an update, Brian, for this morning or not, but trying to continue to keep this as a hot topic. Art Stevens was also very helpful in helping to get some of the information together for us in terms of putting out a grant request to our federal partners, and we're hoping that something will pop. What we did not count on, and I don't know if there is a direct correlation or not, but there was an absolute ridiculous ice storm that took out northern Michigan. A few days after we had our meeting, it's certainly possible that prioritization of any kind of available funding may be redirected towards rebuilding communities that were obliterated. So that doesn't diminish the importance of what we're trying to do, certainly in the state's eyes. But similarly, how we have a critical issue with a failing culvert off of Mitchell Street. It's been a few years, and we're still holding our breath, trying to obtain some outside funding for that project as well. It just might take time for this to happen. That being said, if anybody has any leads for any kind of funding opportunity, please pass them along. We're following up on everything. Our partners with the Alliance for Economic Success, just as a for instance, came forward last week with what may have been a good opportunity through USDA Rural Development. Unfortunately, the cutoff of eligibility was 10,000 in population, and we're I think 10,400. So I mean, just right there. But certainly, if anybody else on the board has anything to add, please feel free to do so. I may have missed something.
So Marcus, just as an update, and we've corresponded with Representative Fox's office.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He is going to introduce the grant request that follows the grant plan that the city prepared. That will be part of his legislative 2026 legislative budget. So that's in the pipeline, and then I think you heard from Senator Peters' office. I think there's some good potential there, but all these dollars are fiscal 2026 dollars, and the downside of them is that they're several months away from being even awarded and then allocated. There is one other grant avenue that Marcus and we've corresponded directly with Eagle, and that's 2025 dollars, and that's existing dollars with an existing Eagle budget for emergency groundwater cleanup.
Right.
And there's a lot of competition for those dollars, but we've got an ask into Eagle, into the Cadillac district. So that is one block of money that could possibly get freed up much sooner. We're hoping. And that, to me, the value of that present day money is significant. And we did hear back from Eagle that said they're considering it. They haven't said no.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar amount of money, similar department budget as the Gaylord district provided to Grayling Township for their extension of their municipal water to PFAS impacted wells. So the Gaylord District, Eagle, I believe last year contributed $6 million. That's a much bigger area, but it's the same budget dollars. So there's a basis for this request. So right now, and that and $5 won't buy you a cup of coffee in Chicago, will it? So
Maybe a bag of chips.
not even a bag of chips. But at least we have an ask. And I tell you, I'm this has been a frustrating. The issue of PFAS has been challenging, but when we sent those grant requests out, we received letters of support from Great Lakes Environmental PFAS Action Network and Mary's Cadillac Clean Water Group, City, Public Gens, the CAPS. It was really encouraging to see the support that we got in a short period of time.
Yes, without a doubt.
So there's hope.
I also attended a MAC conference in Lansing the 7th, 8th, and 9th of this month and had a chance to talk more with John Roth. And I appreciate him that we are not part of his area. He is more the Interlochen tip of Wexford County, and he is still right there willing to help. So he's looking for any kind of dollars that we also might capture and would be willing to help in any way he can. So
Yeah, he's been very engaged.
I think it's very helpful that people that we may not be their constituents but still care. So
Thanks for those updates. I know there's other grants out there too that we're kind of diving in a little bit, but we don't have probably much to update today, but I do know there's some other people working on some other grants, so all good stuff. And that brings us to public comments. And again, this is a session with no open dialogue. Address the board with your comments, and each person has 3 minutes.
Good morning. Bill Barnett, Stimson. How's everybody? Thanks for serving. There's going to be a town hall on May 14th. I would ask that you set a meeting on that date. I think it's going to be at the high school auditorium, so you could attend and not worry about quorum rules. And I would ask you to attend. It's being put on by Up North Live, a media source, not me. It's Pat Livingston is their news director. He's organizing it. He's invited Eagle, EPA, the EPA, the Health Department, the City of Cadillac. I'm inviting the LDFA today. All those four, Eagle, EPA, Health Department, City of Cadillac, have declined to participate in a community discussion, which I find wrong. And I would ask that if any of you are connected to any of those agencies, directly or indirectly, to please contact them and ask them to reconsider. They will, I'm sure Mr. Livingston, who's very level-headed, would do anything to accommodate a presentation by Eagle or EPA or the Health Department or the city, and they would make sure all questions are answered. But it's a community discussion. I'm feeling like we're getting left to, this is our problem as citizens, and it shouldn't be that way. So I'm inviting everybody. Disappointed that the message that's coming is not good. I would ask that you help get those things changed. I would ask that the highest level of filter be put on the LDFA discharge that goes into the Clam River. Mr. Danford has a well right across from the wastewater treatment plant. It came back at 20 for one of the two hazardous chemicals. Businesses and homes going both ways on 13th Street or right by the Clam are problematic as well. Platte Road's problematic. I would ask that you please investigate the environmental impact on the Clam River and the people that live and work there. It's not been looked at. We've been dumping for 27, 28 years into a river and never went to look to see what's going on. And I'm really concerned, and Mr. Danford has the hottest spot there, which would lead to anyone to believe that's where it's coming from. Sorry. Usually I don't have that effect on people. Worse. The city's done three things. They're paying attention to this, and I appreciate it, but they've given bottled water. They've got a design for Marathon, one of probably 15, 20 streets that need to be fixed, and they have put up $15,000 for testing. All great progress and steps in the right direction. Any field trips, as a citizen representative, I'd be happy to help and communicate. I have been communicating with the senator. I would ask that these meetings, I appreciate Mr. Raybald's not here, but he puts in great effort to tape these. These should be on TV, and they should be people should be able to flip through. And all your meetings, the replays should be out there for the public and the seniors, mostly, that don't have internet capabilities. So if you could make some sort of overture to the city council to do that, I'd appreciate that. The bylaws do, I think, say Monday meetings. I would appreciate if those could be moved to Monday, so you'd be following your bylaws in that regard. With that said, thank you for the progress you're making and the great steps. I'm very proud of this board.
Sorry, I swallowed wrong.
Anyone else? Okay. Next up is section 12, committee's response to public comments. And I
So
can,
do you happen to have the time on the 14th, that meeting is?
There's an email coming out, and I think it's 7 o'clock after dinner, but
You can email that to one of us, maybe
Yeah.
Matt, and he can ship it to the rest?
sure.
Perfect, thank you.
okay. Art, thank you for the information about the ordinance. I'll look through that, sir. Thank you. And Mr. Barnett, thank you for the information about the town hall. Additionally, there's a town hall coming up June 27th. Just to piggyback that, it's a solutions fair that we're trying to put together between the Cadillac Advocates and GLPAN, Great Lakes PFAS Action Network. And it's going to be about a bunch of vendors and a bunch of information keying on solutions, not finger pointing. And it's June 27th, and I don't have the time yet, but it's in the works. It's going to be at the Pavilion and the Cadillac Commons and the Market. It's going to be just informing concerned families of what is out there and about solutions for water filters, trauma counseling, blood testing, water tests, PFAS destruction technology. We're going to try to get any different level of PFAS information to the community. It's just going to be about solutions, and we'll move on that. That's all I have for comments on public. Anybody else? Okay.
I've got a couple.
Yes, sir.
I personally would like to see the agenda delete committee response to public comments. In this particular agenda, right afterwards, we have committee comments. If somebody has some, they can make them at that time. To me, public comment is input coming to us. If there's something significant, we can always add it to another agenda. I'm a long-term member of an organization called the Michigan Chapter of North American Lake Management Society, and also Michigan Lakes and Streams Association. They have funded a graduate student partial funding to do graduate level work on how does PFAS migrate from groundwater into lakes, and it's investigating the groundwater surface water interface. I think it's peripheral to our concerns, but as that moves forward, I will update the committee.
What, I'm sorry, what organization was that?
Combination of Michigan Lakes and Streams Association and Michigan chapter of North American Lake Management Society, which is pretty much a professional organization. NOMS is a national organization, and this is the Michigan chapter. We spent quite a bit of time talking last month, and it's summarized in the almost half the minutes on page 2 about past minute meetings and not being available, being corrupted, or what have you. And there was some discussion about whether we can move past that. And Mr. Schichtel commented that, to quote, says he thinks so, he would just like more accountability. I would like to find some way. Mr. Hamner also commented that meetings were not always held monthly, and I think we just need to move past this. If the city can come up with any additional, that's fine, but seems to me like we're beating a dead horse. So those are my comments.
So we're on response to public comments.
Oh,
But are
I'm
we
sorry. I
But
thought
if we're on
you-
committee comments, we can jump there. You did a great job.
Well, I thought you had moved on.
No,
I'm sorry.
that's perfect. That's
Apologies.
perfect. Would anyone like to do
So-
some committee comments?
So so we're on the committee comments.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, oh,
Go ahead, Brad.
okay. I've served on multiple boards and committees. Most of the committees I've served on, especially like permitting, it's a one-way, public comment is a one-way thing. The boards is set and listen. However, I've served on a couple of significant boards, Land Use Leadership Council, Governor Granholm, Site Review Board, Governor Engler, where the panel members were able to have dialogue with public commenters. It was within reason, within a time frame. So I really think the structure of it is really what we want to make it, but in the interest of streamlining this and not having 2-hour meetings, I mean, I'm fine with Mike's suggestion of if there's a board member that wants to respond to public comment, we can have it in the board comment section. If that would help streamline it and address Mike's concern, I'm fine with that. But just to prohibit any response, I think that's up to us, and I think at times it could be healthy. But if we could streamline and narrow that time down, that's great. Regarding the graduate student study, Mike, I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a potential fantastic resource, because we're looking at toxicity and groundwater tests, but hydrology has an very important part of this overall. Is the scope of work for that grad student, is that pretty well established and fixed? Is there any opportunity where we could introduce the Cadillac's areas questions into that type of work?
Yeah, it's just been announced, so other than that very short, brief announcement of the title, more or less, I think if we have concerns we'd want to pass on, I can facilitate that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, one question I have is, the discharge from the wastewater treatment plant. This is beyond the LDFA, Marcus, and I recognize that, but since we have this resource, and I've heard this statement from consulting experts that the clam is a donor stream, but I really don't understand, what does that mean? Does that mean a molecule of PFAS or whatever contaminant is automatically going to go into a nearby groundwater aquifer? I think it'd serve the public if we could take advantage of that resource and say, could you look at like donor streams like the clam? Could we learn more from that existing scientist? And then, hey, Ms. Julie, I got one other.
Okay.
Regarding the minutes, yeah, I agree, Mike, I'd love to move on. But I hope you don't mind that we ask the question. Okay, I mean, because as an authority member on any authority, you know, we're volunteers, we're putting a lot of time, and we want to make sure that the bases are covered. You know, we don't want to be put at risk because of an Open Meetings Act violation. I think that's a perfectly fair question for an authority member to say, hey, city, hey, are we administering this authority? And I know you've served on multiple boards, and that's got to be a concern for you. So, yeah, yeah, okay, I'm with you on that. I don't mind the question being asked, but you're right. There's a time to answer it, and this is the best we have. So let's move on.
Thank you.
I would like to say thank you to the public that has gotten so involved. I so appreciate how much people come together to make sure our citizens are okay and to help out this board as well as city council. I also appreciate how much every person on this board individually pulls to this plan. Again, Brian says we're volunteers, but there's hours and hours that some of us spend on this, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So I just want to say that I appreciate what each one of you do. To the public comment or response, sitting on many boards, there are times that you really want to respond to them and you necessarily can't. So I appreciate that there's a spot to respond if you can. The agenda this month moved very nicely. It's nice to see that time was efficiently used. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Jeff, for giving us that June 1st idea of date to have everybody switched over in the LDFA.
Yep.
And I look forward to our field trip to the LDFA service building. Thank you.
I just want to echo that. In my previous life, and Marcus would have participated, Cadillac leadership annually toured what we'd call the LDFA site. And that was 20 people that reverberated in the community with a better understanding. I know we're in a brave new world here, but I'd highly endorse a public interface or invitation, work through the mechanics of the Open Meetings Act if it's with us, but I highly endorse that. It's a really good learn for non-technical people like me.
And you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just would like to thank the public comment too. I think it helps guide where we're at. I started this board in December 2019, and 3 months later, the state of emergency was declared, and everything went kind of sideways for a couple of years. So, not that that's an excuse or anything, but 2020, 21 really changed the world as we see it and how we communicate and run boards. I do think we do have data from our discharge. I was wondering if we have what the discharge data is to the clam. I think there is info out there. And then the other thing is, did we complete the bylaw review? We talked about it a lot a couple of meetings ago about how we need to look at these bylaws. They probably need to be updated, and I would suggest maybe a subcommittee kind of at least review them, look at meeting dates, look at requirements, and at least bring them into the current state of affairs and make sure everything's we're at least operating to a set of bylaws that we all can commit to.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, just jumping on what Mike was saying, I recall we had talked about, with the meeting date thing, to say how we'll meet, like the city charter, at least once, once a month, and then whenever we're ready to affirm the updates, the next step after that is bringing him to council for council ratification.
Okay, so just to further piggyback that,
Yeah.
on our LDFA monthly checklist, for September, there's an annual submission, if you see on the checklist, which you all have a copy of. Proposed bylaw changes submitted to city council for a yearly approval. So we had improved 5 or 6 things from our bylaws in the past, and I think we kind of covered all the changes, but there was some suggestions for changes. So before September arrives, we can have a quick subcommittee with those that would like to be involved.
Yeah.
Because there's a few other suggestions that we missed in those 5 or 6. So.
Yep.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, so go ahead, Mark.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Were the 5 or 6 suggestions changes to the bylaws?
No, they were
Was it
just
just
kind of just
ideas?
following. Most of them were following, with
Okay.
the exception of the date that was specific to the first Monday.
Yeah.
We wanted to make it more of a 1-month meeting per month as a minimum.
Yeah, I think if we worked on that now,
Yeah.
you know, at least start a few months in
Yeah.
advance, by the time September rolls around, we should be able to rubber stamp it, or, you know, for lack of a better word, give it to council and say, yeah, we've actually been following this revised set, and this is what we think it should be going forward.
Okay. Perfect.
I've said before, and I'll say again, I really like the subcommittee, so then you can be focused on just those bylaws and not get sidetracked with other things.
Right.
So I would really appreciate that subcommittee.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody else?
No, but I do want to piggyback on the committee response to public comment and committee comments. If I'm understanding the 3 other authority members, I do agree that when you put on an agenda committee response to public comments, there's an expectation from public in the meetings I attend that there will be an interaction or a comment to my statement, which is not how we're operating. But I do think there have been times that I've been in boards that I would like to respond immediately to clarify or validate or ask a question, but that could be done in committee comments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's where, is that
I think
where
it's
we're going, Matt?
more
That's where we're at.
clearly.
And just for clarification, there's a lot of different topics going on here, but we should discuss this one for sure. I mean, it was put on the agenda originally because there was a lot of public comment, and some of the dialogue in the public comment was being repeated month after month. And so we were trying to make it so that the public felt heard. And maybe it was the wrong avenue to do that. Maybe it wasn't, but I feel like we've made some great progression. Obviously, public comment is not what it used to be. And I think what was most important is we had some great conversations, Mike and myself, and we just wanted to have a motion to make sure everybody on the board had a voice. So if Mike wants to do a motion to have it removed, then we can make sure that everyone's being heard with their vote, if that's okay, and then we can have it removed. So just a motion to have that agenda item.
Well, no, I understand the process. We've got another input. Let's
Okay.
see where our agenda's going. And, you know, I think this is my 3rd meeting, and I sat in on a couple others. But public comment has been reduced, and I've certainly sat on boards where I would like to make a lot of comments about public comment with, but let's just see where it goes.
Okay.
And I may make that motion.
Oh, you may in the future? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I
just
don't
wanted
think
to-
we
I
can
just
do
wanted to
it now,
respond.
it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Well, I think we can make that
Yeah.
change, it's just the
Yeah,
next
I'm okay
agenda
with it.
item.
I just want everyone to be heard, so.
The
if
next
anyone
agenda
disagreed
item, and
with it.
as long as we all feel that we have freedom to say, hey, I'd like to correct that, or I'd like to affirm that, or thank that person, that gives us the freedom as well.
And if I can just add, you know, it sounds to me that generally speaking, there's good consensus between the board on this topic. Similar to city council meetings, we don't have the line item of committee comments. We rather have something called good of the order, which the members of the board use to talk about special events, or frankly, to talk about something that happened during the meeting, or even to respond to, you know, a public comment, or ask for clarification, you know, from staff. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly with all of that is that, you know, sometimes staff or legal or whomever may or may not be equipped, you know, at that moment to actually provide a meaningful type of response. Or sometimes, you know, sometimes they are, and it is helpful for a member of council to bring something up during good of the order to try and directly clarify or address a question or a comment that came up during public comments. So I think that opportunity is available to members of this board by having the committee comment, you know, section on the agenda itself, to allow for people to address as appropriately comments that are made, without there being some form of guarantee or expectation to members of the public that everything that's asked would actually be addressed at that moment. I don't know if I'm clarified anything or made it clear as mud, but my attempt was to try to be helpful. So,
I think there's an agreement. Does anybody else have any committee comments? Okay. I'll try to be really brief. I do, feel bad that the last few meetings have been lengthy, but there was a huge concentration with Jeff and Brian and myself with the agenda this month, trying to move on and try to turn the page. And, now that the bylaws, we seem to be up to speed on the bylaws, the EPA non-compliance, we have actions in place. And the OMA regulations, we have been compliant since October. And so we have made huge strides. So I think this meeting's been just over an hour, so I think we're making some great progress, and I appreciate everyone's efforts on that to try to concentrate on the current topics at hand. Just real quick, I had a few things that I noticed. Well, one thing in particular, conditional formatting. I mentioned in last meeting that on the website that the well testing was not documented properly and that you couldn't see the highlights anymore. Apparently that was an issue with conditional formatting, and if you had any Apple technology, you couldn't see that. So I just wanted to bring awareness to that. Owen and I worked on that in the past month, so thank you, Owen, for identifying that. He has made those spreadsheets into PDF now, so it doesn't matter what you log on with, you're going to see that information. So I wanted to clarify that from last meeting. I also added a couple things on our monthly compliance checklist. I'll be very quick. I added 2 informational meetings for a calendar year, so we're compliant with statutory laws. And I also added in December that we make sure that we extend our TIF, which obviously Owen will make it happen, for December 31st of 2026. I just put it on there because there's a lot of things to remember. Also, I noticed for our meeting minutes, which thank you, Jeff, for putting 4 more of them on there, that December of last year, our recent meeting is not showing for some reason. So if you could I have a copy of the meeting minutes for December of 2024 if you need them. So
I don't know why they're not showing.
If you could update that, that'd be awesome, because we are compliant to Open Meetings
December?
Act, and I want to make sure that we are. So
December of
December
24.
of 2024, sir. Just a few meetings ago. And that's
the
all I-
TIF extension, is Owen still here? Owen? Would you mind coming back to the mic for the question on the TIF? Didn't we extend it for 3 years?
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
December 31st of 26.
Oh,
It says on your
26. Okay.
website that it's
Okay.
that. And I was just making
Okay.
sure that we keep pushing that out as it comes closer.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And that's all I had to share.
I have one last request,
Yes.
and I guess this is for not only our meetings, but any meetings. If we could throw a bottle of water up there, just in case somebody is making a public comment and they get a cough such as Marcus got today, there's a bottle of water right there to take a quick drink.
No,
If we
that was
could
the
do
problem.
that-
I drank something. I swallowed it, wrong pipe.
Right, but in that same
Yeah.
situation, if we could just throw a bottle of water up there, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
I can try to remember. All right. And that brings us to establishing a meeting date for next meeting. And we had just food for thought for trying to establish a meeting time for next month. Is we're trying to lean toward by July 1st or our new fiscal year to have a yearly schedule. So start thinking about, second Monday of the month. We want to make this more user-friendly so people can rely on a meeting. And because there's 9 of us now on the board, well, soon to be 9, that we have enough people that should be able to make it here. So just food for thought for future discussions. But do we have any suggestions for a meeting time and date for next month?
Wednesday the 21st? Just keeps it about a month away at the same.
Okay.
10:30 again?
Yeah.
10:30.
Works for me.
Talking May. And we're going to have our first informational meeting in May. If we want to follow the checklist, I could move it out a month, but it's May and November right now.
So we can notice that.
So can we do that at 10:30 and for a quick meeting?
Yeah.
And then do another meeting, and then we'd do a 14-day notification on that? Okay. Perfect, so 10:30 for the first meeting. On the 21st, Wednesday the 21st.
Then what time are you gonna establish for the informational meeting?
Well, the informational meeting is what we're gonna do at 10:30.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
we're gonna
I see. I'm
follow
sorry.
it with our
Okay.
LDFA meeting, whether that's 15 minutes or half an hour.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And then a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
1 hour, 10 minutes.
Can you email me the name of the gentleman so we
I
can
will
get a
be,
microphone?
hopefully,
You know,
I think 45 miles off.
You okay?
Tell him first.
So, out of
Yeah.
self.